Hi, Karen with you today. Thank you so much for joining me. I have a project for ScrapFX Australia and I'm looking forward to showing this to you. I absolutely love how this turned out. I am using quite a few new products and some of my faves as well. Look at those patchwork birds. They are so pretty, and I knew I really wanted to do something with those birds. And I have the negative number stamp there to the left, and that's a doily stamp to the right. So there's just a few of the things I use in this project today. So my project actually ends up becoming a page which I then put into a frame for a present for a friend, and I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later as well. So I started my layout with just a piece of white cardstock, which I did put some gesso on as well because I knew I was going to put lots of liquids and things like that. And I've used some tree collage paper as well. And I've just glued that down with some medium gel. And where I could, I stuck it down as best as I could just to give that first initial layer on the page. And then I got out a heap of paints and sprays. I've sort of lost count of how many I actually used. I do have them sitting with me in a box, so I will try to remember some of the things and show you what I've done there. So just with my fingers, I did some finger painting all over the page in that beautiful blue, which is the Dilutions London Blue paint. And then I added some of the orangey marmalade color, which is the spiced marmalade in that distress oxide spray, Tim Holtz. That's such a beautiful color, and I felt like that gave the trees a little bit of a sunsetty feel as well. I didn't really have a complete idea in mind around what colors, but generally speaking, when I get my sprays out, I tend to end up going quite blue, and the colors morph quite a lot during this whole process. So I've got my shimmers paints there as well, my shimmer sprays, and I used the colours, Osei Can You See, and I used a little bit of Jenny B Blue as well, just to kick into that. So I patted that down with some towel as well, and this is where I really start to putting the layers on the page. So this layout does change colour quite a lot as I move through the whole process. So I wanted to really use that doily stamp. Isn't that gorgeous? It's so pretty. And I'm using the Distress in Pink Flamingo, the Distress Oxide ink as well. It doesn't show up hugely, but there is a little bit of a layer, and that's the whole thing about mixed media, is just adding layers upon layer upon layer. I guess I'm old enough to remember Sarah Lee ads, and when you used to talk about the Danishes and they used to say layer upon layer upon layer, and that's how I think about it when I'm doing mixed media. So I brought the birds in at one stage and realised I wanted to put a bit of red in as well, so you'll see that coming into fray. So the stencil I'm just using here is the carpet rug, and I'm just using some Nouveau Mousse on that, and in the colour of Cornflower Blue. And I just used the edge of the stencil, and I did put some washi tape at the end of that as well, so it didn't go into the other section of the stencil. And I just popped that in 3 places down the page in that triangular page, just to give a little bit of texture to the page, really. I wasn't really looking for necessarily full-on colour. That colour does get covered up a little bit later, but I wanted the rough and bumpy of the texture paste of the mousse. And now these negative number stamps, I think they've now become my favorite stamp. Look at that stamp. That is so beautiful. I love it. So I do pop on just some Memento ink for those ones, and just stamp a couple of times around the page on the top of the left hand and on the right hand side. And oh yeah, like I said, it's fast becoming one of my favorite stamps. I've done a couple of other projects coming up as well, which you'll see in a little while, and they are definitely featured on those layouts as well. You can really give because of that negative side of it, with that solid color around the number, it really gives a great look across the page, and actually gives a bit of a dimension feel as well. So I'm just adding some white splatters, which is pretty normal for me. White splatters, I love them. I've just watered down a little bit of acrylic paint there. I went with acrylic paint just for this one because I knew at some stage I was probably going to cover it up as well, because I did want to do a lot more. As I progress through, you will see some direct changes, like I said before, around the colours that I do get. Now this stencil that I'm using here is a brand new one as well, and this is called bird mask stencil as well, and this has a saying along the side of which is what I'm going to put on my page. So it just has some statements saying fly, soar, dream, imagine, flying high, sky's the limit, use your wings, take flight, fledgling, take off, and beauty frolic. Just thought that was perfect to go along with the patchwork birds that I'm going to put on this a little bit later as I was going through. So I have used Color Blast in Bling for this one, just through the stencil. Now the stencil is really smooth, so I did make sure I stuck it down with just a little bit of washi tape, just to make sure that it didn't move around too much. And I also put some washi tape just around the edges so it didn't actually go into the birds. I didn't actually want to use the birds portion of that stencil. And it gives the text, that paste gives a little bit of texture and also some lovely bling along. So I was toying with the idea of how I was going to play and work with this whole background. And so the next layers I put on, it's gone a little bit beyond, because I did do a little bit off camera because I was trying to get most of this dried naturally. And every time I came back to my desk, I'd add a little bit of spray here and a little spray there. So I didn't record absolutely every second of me building this layout. But I wanted to add some more texture and just some more interest to the page. And so I had some rub-ons in my collection, and they're from 49 and Market. And I wasn't sure whether they were really going to rub very well, because I did have quite a bit of texture and paint on that page by then, but they rubbed on beautifully across the page. So I just add some of those rub-ons around the page, just to, like I said, just to add a little bit of dimension and a little bit of a different view. I put some butterflies as well, so they're sort of mixed into the background of the page. So like I said at the beginning, this is morphing into a present for a girlfriend. She was a work holiday who's now a friend. She has just celebrated her birthday, and I was going to be going to her birthday celebration. And she's also just, I'm so proud of her, she's just taken the step and is going in a bit of a huge, not completely a career change, but she's changing where she works, and she's going up into a new level of experience, and I'm extremely proud of her. So in case you're watching, congratulations, you know I'm so proud of you. So I'm using some more, so I also come in with one of the quotes from the Frida quote sheet, and it just talks about you're not needing to use your feet because you have wings to fly. And I just loved that, and I thought it went perfectly with the birds. So a little bit about more what I'm doing here is the birds have quite a little bit of red around them. So I felt that when I was bringing them in, I just needed a little bit more red around the page. So I just added in some more shimmers there. And I also used some Lindy's as well in Queen of Hearts red, and a little bit of Mango Tango just to from Shimmers, which is more of an orangey mandarin-y colour, just to add some more interest to the page as well. So I do fussy cut out the birds, and you'll see them come in to frame in a moment, but I wanted to keep putting some layers into this whole piece as well. So that's like I just love that about mixed media, and you can really be so messy, and then once it all comes together, it all just looks so beautiful. Like, it looks a little bit messy right now, I think, as I was progressively working through, and I was starting to wonder, had I gone too far, or did I make it too dark, or or what was I doing here? So I'm using the stamps, which are all about mark making stamps. So we've got them in the crosses and then the straight marks there, and also some of the circles as well. So I'm just popping those on with some just normal stamp pad, nothing special, and a couple of different colors with some distress oxides. I don't remember which ones I used, to be honest, and I don't have them sitting here with me anymore. But I really love those mark making ones. I'm not good at hand drawing myself, so they're perfect. So I'm trying here to work through how I was going to set this up. I really wanted to use 3 birds, and I couldn't get it to work in my mind how that was going to sit across the page. And so I decided to actually cut up the piece of journaling, so the journaling is not in that straight blocky line. And I add in a little bit more rub-ons to give a little bit more depth to the page as well. So I can't tell you how much fun I had creating this. It took, like I said, a few days to actually pull together, and I love, love, love the way it all finished. So I will put in the description box below details of the ScrapFX blog, and it will have details there all listed out of the products that I've used today. So I hope you get a moment to check that out. We also have a creative space as well on Facebook, so I'll put the link below to that. And if you want to share what you've been creating with your ScrapFX products, that'd be fantastic. We love to see what everyone's up to. And then just in a moment, I'll just start to finish off how I'm working through this layout. So when I mentioned before, the colors have all changed, so you can really see there. So I do then put a whole heap of splatters on the page, and this is some gold, which is another Shimmers paint in the Inklings, which is minor 49er. Such a tongue twister. And I've also added some black splatters too, just for a little bit of drama. And I wanted to bring in some of that black that I'd also put in from the stamps as well. As you can see there, they're now starting to get covered up quite a little bit in terms of the rest of the colors that I put across the page. So I wanted to bring back a little bit more black, and I've used my black gesso for that. If you've seen any of my recent recordings, I always talk about I use black gesso because I really find that it doesn't soak in too much even when I've used gesso on the page or whatever, and it just sits on top of the page and instead of actually soaking into the paper, and it stays black. I always find if I use black spray, it goes a little grey and doesn't keep its color, so that's why I use the black gesso. So I do decide on using 3 of the birds. So I put one on the right, one on the left, and there's another one down on the bottom on the right hand side in just a moment. And as you can see there, I'm just fiddling around and working out where I'm going to put the title. And I think it works really well by cascading it down the page. So just in a moment, you will see the final product all framed up and ready to be handed over to my beautiful friend. So again, as always, I want to thank you so much for joining me today, and I really do appreciate all the love that I get and all the comments and all the likes as well. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you liked and subscribed, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.